Sasa nimkaribishe hapa na niunge mkono kumleta hapa Biida ambaye yeye atakuja hapa kutoa hotuba ya shughuli yenyewe hii. Sasa karibu sana. Bila shaka unaweza kutoa hotuba katika lugha ambayo wewe umeichagua kwa kuzingatia kwamba vile unapotaka ifike ujumbe wako. Karibu sana, tumkaribishe hapa kwa makofi mengi. Baada ya hotuba hii tutakuwa na mjadala kidogo hapa, tafakuri. Bi Zakia, Bi Mariam na Bi Saha, mjiandae sasa. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Kwa hivyo hii ni sio hotuba, ni maneno machache kutoka kwa waandishi, na tuliamua kuyasema kwa Kiingereza kwa sababu natazama hapa kuna mabalozi kutoka Ufaransa na kutoka sehemu nyingine ambao sasa hivi wameshaingia kwenye Instagram. Kwa hivyo labda tusome kitu kwa Kiingereza ili na wao waelewe kidogo. Okay. So we know about the history of the dynasties that ruled Kilwa in the Middle Ages through the Kilwa Chronicles, right? As we do know about Pate Chronicles and other Swahili towns. We have read about the princess from Zanzibar, Princess Salme, and I believe there's also a museum now dedicated to her. We also know about the lives of important people, presidents, world figures. But the reality of people like our grandparents is only known to us. And is only known to us through oral narratives, right? Narratives that tend to be unfixed. By unfixed, I mean they change from one person to another. And writing this down is important, especially for Africa, because we need to tell our own stories. And so it is important for voices such as those of Salama are heard, especially at a time in history when we are only starting to understand the Indian Ocean and the cosmopolitanism, or the life that was quite cosmopolitan, that characterized the coast for centuries. And so this book really is about an unassuming woman, Salama Binti Rubeya, who was born to Zaidani Binti Mbwana Mgindo and Rubeya Mahfoudh Mshihiri before World War I. And she lived in Kilwa. She lived in a household that was mercantile. Her grandfather used to sell sesame seed oil, simsim oil, mafuta ya ufuta, that he would make in his own backyard. He had camels and donkeys that went around a kiln to make this froth that was the oil that was then sold to an Indian called Himji, who then sold it across the seas. She married Muhammad Hamdani, who came from a very pious family. We talk about the mosques that his family have built in Zanzibar and in Kilwa as well. There's even one of the few cemeteries in Stone Town today that belongs to his family, the Hamdani family, Kitalu Shama Hamdani. They lived a reality that is standard. It was just ordinary life, day-to-day life. There was nothing special in the grand scheme of things. But that unspecialness is what we need to know about, to know our history. And how did the book come about? I mentioned this before. In the 1990s, when my uncle Abdurrahman Hamdani Guy was fighting pancreatic cancer, my grandmother, Salama Binti Rubeya, spoke to him and my mother, Salah Hamdani, about life. And soon, Salah realized that a lot of what was said, she would never hear again and she would forget. And that she was correcting some versions of what she had known herself. And maybe it was important to write this down. She wrote it down in a green book that she carries everywhere. But after a while, she couldn't keep up with the stories. For example, there was a story of their family being, their great-grandmother was inherited by an uncle. And she thought, oh my God, we had that? I mean, there was a lot of things that shocked her. And she thought, let's record it. So she took 2 cassettes, you know, those cassette players that we had in the 90s, and she recorded it. And in 2017, I fell into these cassettes and I thought, my goodness, this is amazing. And so I presented a transcript of what was in the recording at a conference. People liked it. And then there was interest and there was encouragement. And then we thought, maybe let's just write about this. And initially the idea was to have a family tree. So our kids, like kids of my cousins, like Nyangu, Mohammed Moyo, our kids could know our history because they don't know it. Even we know it vaguely. But after a while, I came to realize that a lot of what was said could actually benefit other people as well. So it could be a story about us that can be read by all. And in 2021, I did another presentation around the idea of forced displacement. Because where Salama lived in Kilwa, their house was initially by the sea. Beautiful white house by the sea. They lived there and they were very happy. But then with the British coming into Kilwa, the British thought, no, the seaside had to be the space that was uzunguni, where only the British colonials could live. And whoever was by the sea and was not white had to move to another space, so Uhindini. And so the whole thing of forced displacement, which we see all over Africa actually, was interesting. So I presented on this, and that's where we thought, okay, let's go for this, let's do a book. And we did that. And so in this book, you will read about what is meant to be the life of a girl from a normal, ordinary family, could be your grandmother as well, and married to a pious man, much older than her, but very much in love with him. They had 9 children. And their children have gone on to do amazing things, not only in Zanzibar, Tanzania, but globally. They're recognized figures. And this woman, she's ordinary, she's unassuming, but her impact is just extraordinary. And I hope you enjoy the book. Thank you.